All right. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Auburn School Committee, November 20th, 2024, meeting of the Auburn School Committee. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll start down here on my right with introductions.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Quinn Gormley, Ward 4.
Corin McGuigan, Ward 1.
Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Pamela Albert at large.
Sue Doris, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier, Ward 3.
Jay Rich at large.
Adam Platt, City Council Representative.
Calvin Vincent, Student Representative.
Connor Dufour, Student Representative.
Amanda Kuchar, Business Manager.
Scott Anier, Assistant Superintendent.
All right, thank you everyone for being here. I'm going to start tonight with entertaining a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D for the purpose of labor contract negotiations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Pam, second. Quinn. All those in favor? All right, we will adjourn to the bump out room. Okay, I will entertain a motion to re-enter regular session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Pam, second, Adam. All those in favor? We are now back in regular session at 6:18. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda this evening. I will entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's consent agenda, including the approval of tonight's agenda, the approval of the minutes of the November 6, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Warren, second, Quinn. All those in favor? So moved. It does not look like we have anyone here for public participation tonight, so I am going to move on to our presentation, our budget presentation for FY 2026. Dr. Doris.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Albert. Tonight, we are happy to share with you some information about budget development for the 25-26 school year. Tonight, we're going to talk about the process and the timeline, the projected increases and decreases that we're anticipating, and we'll go over some expenditures and revenues with you, and then we'll be asking you if you have any questions or any items for consideration or discussion. And we will be taking notes tonight, writing down all of your questions, and we will be getting you answers. And we'll do the process that we engaged in last year in terms of posting those on our website. So here we go tonight, school committee budget presentation. This starts us off. And our next meeting will be December 16th, and this will be a joint workshop with the City Council, and this will be a preliminary budget discussion. Adam, do you want to add any more to that before we move along?
I don't have anything to add at this point.
Okay. In March is where we will be having our school committee budget meetings, and you'll note that we have school committee meetings every week during the month of March. So on March 5th, we'll be reviewing our budget books and Cost Center 1. And on March 12th, it will be Cost Center 2, and you can see Cost Center 1 was all of the school budget's regular instruction, Cost Center 2, special education, Cost Center 4, which is other instruction athletics, this will be March 12th, Cost Center 5, student and staff support, and then curriculum and instruction. And then moving along to the next week, March 19th is Cost Center 8, which is transportation, Cost Center 9, facilities, and then our capital improvement plan and debt services. And then the last week in March is adult education and revenue, and then we will have that will also be our snow date for other presentations in case we miss one of those Wednesdays due to a snowstorm. When we look at the month of April, we are going to be scheduling our public hearing on the budget, and that will be followed by a joint school committee city council budget workshop. And then in May will be the school committee approval of the budget. And May 19th, city council approval of the budget if all is going well. And then June 10th will be our budget validation referendum. Moving along, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Couture, and she is going to take it away, giving us some information to start off with about some of our anticipated increases.
Thank you, Dr. Doris. Jumping right into personnel. As we begin looking at our step increases for experience, we need to keep in mind that our largest bargaining unit is currently negotiating their salary scale. So this number here represents an increase in step, but not an increase in scale. We will budget additional funds suggested by the school committee for bargaining. So you can see it's about a $700,000 increase at this point for our teachers. There are 299 currently in the bargaining unit, and we expect that increase to be more due to the bargaining going on this year. The administrators have a bargaining agreement in place through FY27, so this increase of $81,000 should only be adjusted as personnel changes take place. This is, I believe I calculated this at a about 4% increase. The ed tech and administrative assistant dollar amount is approximate based on our bargaining data. This is a 14% increase, and I expect it to be within 1% of that dollar amount when we put all of our personnel updated in our system. And the transportation amount represents a 5% increase in wages. Drivers have a 6% increase in hourly rate, but the rest of the transportation unit are around 5%. Health insurance. So we've already included in there any adjustments to our educational support staff unit, although you will be deciding on that this evening. I wanted to make sure any health insurance increase was in there. And what's come up is our loss ratio reported. It comes in for January through September. The loss ratio reported for January through September of 24 is higher than it was for 23. So I'm suggesting a 13% increase in our budget. Last year we budgeted 12%, and it came back with 11.3% increase in the end. In April, we'll receive an email that tells us our new premium amounts, and we'll see what that increase is. But right now, I would suggest budgeting a little bit more than we did last year. So that shows that 13% increase. So we would have to have a conversation with the city tax office as far as valuation goes and whether or not we're going to see any kind of changes in our state subsidy for operations. But there are so many factors in that number, including enrollment, which is up slightly right now, special ed costs, those things. So we're not sure what we're going to be seeing in the EDU 279. We expect to see a preliminary in January for that. But at this time, we're being cautious. The FY23 audit showed a fund balance of $7.1 million for unassigned fund balance. I'm looking at last year, FY24, and we spent about $1 million of what was budgeted for revenue. So I still expect us to be around $6 million for a fund balance at the end of 24, but we won't have an official number till the audit is done. So this slide shows state-approved debt service. That would include ELHS and Park Avenue. Park Avenue is expiring after FY26. We see a decrease in each payment each year, and that was expected. But what we do also see, if you look at the fourth row down, is we had $411,000 in fundraising that was agreed when this project was started, that would go towards the payments for the high school. Well, we're using that up this year. So we're seeing a decrease in revenue available for next year of $211,000. We used $200,000 in FY24. We're using $211,000 this year. So for FY26, we don't have any fundraising money left to put towards our revenue. So while we have a decrease in what's owed, we have a decrease in what's available. So that's why you see from FY25 to 26, where it says net change, you see an increase in what we're going to be paying. Now this slide shows both the state-approved bonds, and towards the bottom is all of the additional bonds, school revolving renovation fund and the capital improvement bonds that we can get annually. We did take out a capital improvement bond this year in FY25 of $985,000 for a boiler in our Fairview Elementary School. So that did cause an increase in payback, but at the same time, we actually have a larger bond that's expiring, so that worked out. I think they timed that pretty well. In FY 2015 bond is expiring this year, so we won't be paying that back. So it kind of counteracts, so you don't see a huge difference there. What I kept in the gray in the bottom right corner for FY 27 and 28, if any bonds are approved for FY 26, we'll start paying those back in 27 and 28. So you can't assume those numbers will be there. They may be different depending on what's decided during this budget season. That's why I kept that in gray. This slide shows our vacancies for teachers, ed techs, and other. There are 5 positions that we aren't currently filling, and bus aides and drivers, it does fluctuate from time to time, so we didn't place a number there. But these are open positions currently, and of course, those will be looked at as well as others if we're looking to reduce our personnel. Some items to consider. The school department is working on a capital plan. This all stemmed from the Harriman study a little over a year ago. I know we have some presentations in the next month to discuss suggestions from our facilities advisory committee. We do need to do a lot of research looking into our capital improvement, and that, of course, will affect our budget. So keeping that in mind. So the major impact that you guys are deciding on this year will impact FY27 more than 26. Really, FY26 has already been decided on when it comes to our capital improvement payback. That's that $985,000 bond that we took out this year. We don't pay it back until next year. But still, every time we look at any kind of large improvement, it's going to affect our budget the next year. And then we thought we would add in other fixed costs that we don't have solid numbers for at this point, but they're going to come up. We have contracts and memberships, and that's not having to do with personnel. That has to do with purchase services, and of course memberships to MSMA and such. You guys go to conferences as well. Utilities, of course, we have to get numbers to look for what the increases will be there. Repair and maintenance, that's always budgeted a little bit higher each year just because the services cost more. We have stipend contracts. Some are being negotiated with the teacher bargaining agreement, as well as we have co-curricular and athletic contracts that increase, generally speaking, each year. And then contractual benefits that weren't really included here. Of course, retirement tends to go up each year. We also have our paid family medical leave that we need to keep in mind is a new cost, but it's still going to be there. So just small things that are really fixed costs is what we're calling them, because we can't change those costs without changing our staffing. I forgot about this one, sorry. So the city is holding our maintenance MOU, and they do pay our utilities. They take care of our repair and maintenance for a cost, but we still have to include that as our Article 9. Things are going very well with that MOU. We feel really good about our working relationship. We still carry our debt service and bonds, as I spoke about in those previous slides. Property insurance and technology repairs. The rest is taken care of by the city, but they will invoice us at the end of the year for those costs, so it still falls in our budget. And I believe that's it, if anyone has any questions or thoughts.
Any questions for Amanda at this point? I know this is a very, very high-level overview at this point before we get into the detailed numbers later on.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. The class of 1951, they deserve just a lot of credit for what they've done and, donating that much money for us. I mean, I know that it's coming up and we're going to have to find another way to accumulate that money, but we've been very fortunate the past couple of years because of them. So kudos to them, and very grateful for them.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments at this point? Okay. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Dr. Doris. Okay. Did you have anything else to add, or are you good? Okay. moving on. Do we have a school committee student representative report tonight?
Yes, thank you. I'll keep it brief. It's just two little things. This week started winter sports. Some teams have very early morning practices, so if you have any kids, they're probably a little tired. And tomorrow night is the NHS induction ceremony for Edward Little High School students at 6:30.
Great. Do you happen to know how many students are being inducted this year?
The number is roughly around 30. I don't have an exact number.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Superintendent's report.
I have no report tonight.
Okay. And I do not have a chairperson's report tonight. Do we have a city council update tonight?
Yes, we do. I'll start with the city council update. Do you want me to give the finance committee update as well, or do you want me to do that as we
You
go
can
through
go right
meetings?
into that next if you want, because that's next on the agenda.
Okay, cool. City council update, just a few items from the meeting this week, the city council meeting this week. The 12 members, I mentioned this at a previous meeting about the comp plan, but the 12 members of the comp plan were named, appointed at the meeting on Monday. That's an important thing for everyone to follow. Parents, employees, teachers, us all. This is the plan that I've been told not to use the word blueprint. That's not the accurate way to describe a comp plan, but the plan is what sets kind of the driving force behind the city for the next 10, 20 years. So it's important to follow along. These meetings will be open to the public, and so I encourage people to attend as they can. Also on Monday, just a quick update, you mentioned the $900,000 CIP, that there had previously been an error on the city's inclusion of that in our CIP budget. You are aware of that. So we had to vote again on Monday to, we had already authorized it, but it had not been included in our bond request. So we voted on Monday to get it back in there. All is good. There were no issues. So that went through. It was just a clerical issue. That's really it from City Council. I've been filling them in on the dates of our budget proceedings here at the school. Obviously, we'll now cross paths on December 16th, so I'll just keep informing both bodies about what the other is up to. So I can move right on to the finance meeting summary. We've decided that we're going to start giving summaries from our group, so I'll give you guys a bit of a summary of what went on last Wednesday. I can't even remember. And Amanda, jump in if I botch this at any point. But the first thing we discussed in our finance meeting was a discussion of hiring an architect/engineer of record for the school department. What that means is, as we've gone through the facilities process with Harriman, they've made many recommendations. If we are to act on those recommendations, every time we do that, we have to go out to bid, we have to find a contractor, we have to find subcontractors, we have to contract with an architect. Sometimes those rates change over time. So our intent is to hire an architect of record. That's one contract with one entity, and in addition to providing architectural services, this group would also go out and secure subcontractors. So they would act as a GC. I think there are some cost savings and just some predictability with having this type of relationship. Whereas if you don't have this, you're really, you're bidding on the spot market every time you go out to bid. Who knows what it's going to be. So this would help us kind of control the predictability of our costs. Is that fair?
Absolutely. It also allows us to have one body of communication looking at all of that Harriman study. There's a lot there. So it kind of gives us that general contractor to communicate that with us too.
Perfect. All right, next up, briefly, we had an update on our geothermal, the federal grant that we're trying to get because of our geothermal at the high school. There have, and again, I want to make sure I don't get this wrong, but there have been some, I don't know if delay is too strong a word, but questions about scheduling the install of these sub-meters for the geothermal system. It was our intent, if you guys remember a few weeks ago, we voted to authorize the expenditure of between $65,000 and $75,000, $67,000 to install sub-meters for geothermal. In doing that, we would qualify for up to $3 million rebate from the federal government. Up to, it would vary. If we don't install the sub-meter, I think we're eligible for up to $600,000 or $700,000 of federal rebate. there is a chance that with the delayed install of the sub-meter, we may not find ourselves in a position where the timing works out so we can get the sub-meter installed and apply for the grant for the $3 million. So we may have to bite the bullet, not install the sub-meter, and apply for the smaller rebate. It's still a net win for the system, but it's not as big of a net win. So it's something we're going to follow, I guess. So really the next 30 days, we're going to know what the outcome is. So update there. I'll skip the city MOU. Number 3 on our finance meeting agenda. I don't really have a ton of info on that. Okay, cool. And then we went over the October financials. I'd encourage anyone to go into the minutes and click into those. Briefly, I'll just mention that our revenues are we have collected, where'd the revenues go? There it is. 27.94% of our revenues fiscal year to date. And our expenses, we have expended 13.31% of our largest bucket of expenses fiscal year to date. Those numbers aren't going to match because you have cash flow issues with payments and receivables, but that's where we're at. Any questions?
Thank you, Adam. I will just note too, the discussion around the proposed architect engineer of record, there was no motion or anything that came out of the finance committee at this point yet. That was just a discussion, but that will possibly come up on a future agenda. So stay tuned. Okay, moving on. Corin, do I have an update on the curriculum subcommittee meeting?
We met with Scott Anier. Matt West, he is the assistant director of the LRTC, and Rob Callahan, he's the director of LRTC, and they gave a very in-depth presentation on where they are now, where they were last year, where they are now, and how those programs are growing through the phases that they've set up. We could have stayed there. We had to come down for a school committee meeting, but we could have stayed there for forever just talking. I'm quite impressed with the programming, the passion behind it, and the knowledge, and kind of like thinking outside of the box as well, the way that they're doing whatever they can for all the students so they can all have pathways once they leave high school. You can check out the minutes, but if you have any questions, please reach out to Scott. He's, got all that, or me. It's a wonderful program. I'm glad that we are partnered so tightly with them.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Corin? Okay, and moving on. We don't have any old business, so we're going to move on to the new business, where I will entertain a motion to ratify the collective bargaining agreement between the Auburn School Committee and the Educational Support Personnel Unit of the Auburn Education Association.
So
moved.
Seconded.
Pat, Adam. And I'm just going to give a quick, does anyone have any questions first? I'm going to give a quick summary of what the new contract entails, just so for anyone watching. So the new contract, the high-level overview, includes a 3% annual increase to the wage scale, a collapsing of steps within the wage scale, as well as reclassification of administrative assistants to school year and full year lanes, as well as combining Ed Tech 1 and 2 scales, which enabled us to increase the starting Ed Tech wage to meet the state requirements starting in July 2025. This equaled a 14% increase to the starting Ed Tech wage in the first year of the contract. We also agreed to additional paid holidays, as well as an increase to the percent covered of the health insurance premium for employees starting in year 2 of the contract and increasing again in year 3. We also agreed to a pay differential for behavioral health specialists, an increase in longevity stipends, and paid lunches for administrative assistants. Overall, this comes out to a 23.3% increase over the 3-year contract period. And I would like to acknowledge the very hard work and dedication and courtesy demonstrated by both the association and the school committee throughout the negotiations process, and for working hard towards a contract that is beneficial for both our educational support unit and that we also feel is fair to the Auburn taxpayers. So thank you to them. So any further discussion before we vote? Okay. All those in favor of ratifying the collective bargaining agreement between the Auburn School Committee and the Educational Support Personnel Unit of the Auburn Education Association? So moved. It is approved. Thank you. We have a list of our upcoming meetings on the agenda. Please make note of the December 16th Joint School Committee City Council Budget Workshop. Make sure you have that on your calendars. And do I have any requests for future agenda items or requests for information?
One extra thought that I did have, we did have a audit subcommittee review earlier this week. And actually, I had thought it was going to be an additional review of the past audit. It wasn't. It was looking ahead to next year's audit. And so I put the same request out to the city council. We were asked if there are any things that we want to focus on for the audit, if there's anything that we think needs to be looked into. Now is our opportunity to guide the audit company as to what they're going to be looking for. I'd say 95% of what they're going to look at is already determined, but there's some flexibility in what departments, what accounts, what functions, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Great, thank you. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A for the purpose of evaluation of officials, appointees, and employees. Do I have a motion?
Seconded.
Corin, second Quinn. All those in favor? We are now in executive session at 6:45. Thank you, everyone.